dare you? How dare you put our lives at risk? How dare you put our families at risk and pretend that it was about looking out for your own? We know you're looking out for your own. This is what gerrymandered leadership in Pennsylvania looks like. So, Mr. Speaker, all eyes on you. Are you going to continue to lie about your cover-up? Are you going to continue to put lives at risk? Are you going to continue to think that advancing the interests of the big banks and the big business whose pocket you're in is more important than saving lives? Well, you don't get my fucking life. My life belongs to me. It does not belong to you. You had no business putting me and my friends and my colleagues at risk in the way that you have. You're a scoundrel, if there ever was one, Mike Turzai. You have no business in government. You have no business in the private sector. I believe that you should be investigated. I believe that you should be prosecuted. And I believe that you should be in jail. How dare you? I'm a Democratic member of the Pennsylvania House who just found out that my Republican leadership, in a cover-up to make sure that we didn't know that COVID-19 had breached the House of Representatives, was lying to its members and covering up from its members about that. The only way we found out is because a reporter asked one of our members, and our members got it out of their leadership. You belong in jail. Shame on you, and thank you to everybody that is asking how we're doing and what's going on. The answer is we don't know. The answer is a whole bunch of my colleagues are on the phone right now with their loved ones saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I might have done to you and not known that I did it. And it was Mike Turzai that did it. It was Republican leadership that did it. It was Russ Diamond that did it every single day, slamming a Secretary of Health for saying that it was risky for us to be together every single day, walking around this house without a mask. And where are you right now? You're in quarantine because you might be spreading a deadly disease to all of us and our families. This is shameful. This is disgusting. This is the height of Republican hypocrisy. This is what happens when Republicans gerrymander a state. This is what happens when Republicans take control. Fuck, I've spent so much of my time here trying to see beyond the blind, disgusting partisanship, and now that partisanship has grown deadly. So no, Mike Turzai, no Pennsylvania Republicans, no to the Pennsylvania House. I see you. We see you. My life doesn't belong to you. The lives of my colleagues don't belong to you. The lives of their friends, their family, their spouses don't belong to you. And you know what? The lives of the constituents of your colleagues who you covered up for don't belong to you either.
Oh, boom! That was Brian Sims. I know it was a long intro today, but I thought he deserved the space. Represented Brian Sims, everybody. It is Friday, May 29th, 2020. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our Capitol death cult paparazzi, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On today's show, Minneapolis burns, including a police station, as it demands for justice in the police murder of an unarmed black man, George Floyd, continues. 4 white police officers involved in the murder have been fired, but the video of one officer with his knee on Floyd's neck for several minutes while he cried out, "I can't breathe," well, that's got the community calling for more widespread justice. And protests have now started to spread across the nation as well. And Sean just informed me right before we went on the air, turns out that guy with his knee on the neck was one who Amy Klobuchar said, nah, we're just going to let the grand jury kind of not press charges on him. That's kind of interesting. Well, of course, Trump had to take to Twitter to help incite the violence against the Minneapolis protesters by calling them thugs, suggesting that the military should be brought in to suppress the protests, and threatening, quote, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, unquote. There you go. Commander-in-Chief, everybody. Speaking of Commander-in-Chief and his incredible capabilities, it's official. More than 100,000 Americans are now dead from COVID-19. That horrific milestone was reached as states are planning on or have already opened up. Yet as the Washington Post reported this week, rural areas are increasingly becoming the areas hardest hit by the coronavirus. And while those states hit hard by COVID-19 early in the outbreak are beginning to flatten their curves, the rest of the country's numbers are continuing to skyrocket up. The charts are really pretty astounding when you start looking at this. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And over Memorial Day weekend, looks like the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri was the place to be. Apparently, Thousands of people flooded the pool parties and resorts in violation of the state's and county's COVID-19 restrictions. The administrator of St. Louis County had to issue a travel advisory after videos of the parties went viral. And he had to urge, quote, those who ignored protective practices to self-quarantine for 14 days or until testing negative for COVID-19. Yeah, what do you think the chances of that are? Huh? What do you think? Take a stab at that. I think we got a better chance of the kind of like the show Ozark being real than we've got of those people self-quarantining. Crazy. After aggressive efforts to combat the spread of coronavirus, South Korea made the decision to reopen their schools. They seemed like had it under control. Yet, here we go. Now more than 500 schools have had to shut their doors again after rapid spikes in new cases. And New York Representative Eliot Engel, you know, that hawkish Democrat who chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee and who has ties to defense contractors, well, he may just lose a primary challenge to Jamal Bowman, a progressive champion for the district that represents parts of the Bronx and Westchester. Oh my gosh, look out. What is going on in New York? Now I see why Andrew Cuomo was trying to cancel the primaries. This is the reason right here. Today's PA focus, PA Republican leaders in the House, as you heard Brian Sims talk about, were exposed for a COVID-19 cover-up in the Capitol. House Representative Andy Lewis came down with the virus and tested positive on May 14th. When he told leadership that he tested positive, leadership only told other Republicans to quarantine. Who cares if the House Democrats get sick? We got a narrative we got to keep going here, folks. Don't tell anybody. PA State Representative Brian Sims unloads on Republican State House leadership after learning that House Majority Leader Mike Turzai and other members of the House Republican leadership covered up that fact, and that several Republican members had tested positive for COVID-19. Representative Russ Diamond, who had been the biggest loudmouth about how everything is safe and that the Governor Wolf is a tyrant, yeah, he was one of those Republicans who tested positive for COVID-19. The fuck? And the COVID cover-up didn't stop the House Republicans from voting for Russ Diamond's resolution to suspend Governor Tom Wolf's emergency declaration. I heard when Diamond read it on the floor, he was like, and in terms of my resolution, everyone, it's fine. It's the cold. It's allergies. And Bernie Sanders endorses Daily Leach's primary challenger, Amanda Capoletti, and endorsed Nikki Saval, who is editor of N+1 and running against Larry Farnese. Farnese?
Yes, it's Nikhil Saval.
Nikhil Saval. Oh, Nikhil. I'm sorry. I got a little something in my glasses. Nikhil Saval. My bad. Awesome, man. Bernie staying in the game. And in another chapter of You Just Don't Get It, Do You? Pennsylvania's Department of Education is working with the Data Recognition Corporation to find ways of getting parents to give their kids standardized tests in the event that schools remain closed in the fall due to the pandemic. How about that? Thank you, Steven Singer, for this. Steven Singer is on this shit. And I don't know about you, but when I was really, really disappointed when my kids' PSSAs and other standardized tests were canceled this year. Literally had like a mock funeral ceremony because we couldn't do it. Are you freaking kidding me? Well,
Reality Dad.
Yeah, exactly. The good news is that Pennsylvania is not the only state attempting to push high-stakes testing into students' homes. Oh, and who is that Matt Brouillette guy again? I just forget. On today's last
Some
call,
asshole.
Some guy. I think he's, well, I don't know. I do know this about him. You are an idiot! On today's last call,
He should really join it. I hope he joins the $5 a month level. Like, I'm sure he listens. So Matt, if you're listening, give us some of that money.
Yeah, $5,000 a month, Matt Brouillette. We'll give you. I'll throw in.
The $500 sponsorship, monthly sponsorship.
The
Matt Brouillette sponsorship.
I'll throw in. I will personally front your Hair Club for Men subscription. Just saying. Today's last call. Today is the day, everybody. Netflix's Space Force, starring Steve Carell, premieres. The series is released. Yes, I cannot wait. Oh God, I might even get more than that. Wednesday's attempt by SpaceX and NASA to launch astronauts to the International Space Station from U.S. soil for the first time in almost 10 years had to be postponed due to weather. I mean, my daughter and my niece and I, we were all sitting around watching it, but they had to scrub it at the 17-minute mark because, well, thunder, lightning, stuff like this. So they're postponing it. The new date is set for tomorrow, May 30th at 3:22 p.m. So if you're as much as a space geek as I am, tune in. And Sean bought a desk fan. That's big news. He needed it after going down the YouTube rabbit hole on Nicolas Cage. I couldn't resist. And I'll report back on some of the new offerings at Free Will's online store. I've had a chance to check out Haymaker Meadery's Dandy, which is a sparkling mead with plum and jasmine and green tea, jasmine green tea at 6.5 ABV. Really, really good. And I also picked up a 4-pack of Relax and Chill, a hazy IPA brewed with oats and hopped with Simcoe, Calypso, and Centennial, coming at 5.5 ABV, very sessionable. You can check out all their stuff to pick up or delivery at freewillbrewing.store. Remind everybody, tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Stream the show live at freespeech.org. Can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. I think he streams that directly to Twitter, too, as well. Make sure you also download Rick Smith's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcast. And we'll remind everybody, if you want a progressive future, we need progressive media. You can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight of our lives, for the fight of the future in 2020. And we're all in for the fight. And I hope you all saw that we got new additions to the podcast now. On Wednesday, I did an interview with Brian Bailey. We talked about higher ed cuts, COVID-19, disaster capitalism, and organizing for the fight back. That is available in our regular Out the Coop podcast stream. And for members right now, for patrons over at patreon.com/rcpress, we released a video for that. That video of the interview will be public on Sunday. So get over to patreon.com/rcpress, become a member for as little as $5 a month, or you can wait till Sunday. You can check out the post there and you can watch the whole video live, or just subscribe to our podcast and you can listen to it right now. We're asking you to become a member for the price of good beer once a month. Not so bad. Oh, and Brian had some great beer recommendations from out in the Cincinnati area too as well, which is great. Help keep the media in the movement in the media. Become a member so those $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Sean, man, I thought I was gonna that you were gonna fall off your chair there for a second there. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
The unsuspected hair club for men plug.
So I actually there is actually a photo of Briette with hair online if you search it.
I remember you talking about that. That's one of the things that was sticking in my head.
Yes, the big bushy goatee and then the monkish look. But it's worth looking up.
You please tell me.
He looks better without hair.
Please tell me he had a mullet. Did he have a mullet?
No.
Oh man, he totally seems like business up front, party around back kind of guy. I don't know. I was looking for him. Suddenly, I didn't see any of his tweets and stuff, and I got worried for him. I was concerned. That's all.
Yeah, I think he deleted his account.
Oh, sorry to see you go.
He took Mark Price's advice, and deleted his account.
Oh, that's good. Well, don't worry. I'm sure he's got 2-3 burner accounts he's got running around, and he'll be trolling people under some other form. So that's fine.
Yeah, no. So it's actually pretty funny. He has this account called Dale Wolf, Governor Dale Wolf. So
ooh, that's so good. Oh, what a great name.
So you could tell by the rhetoric and everything it's the same person. So
right.
I intentionally misspelled his name. And he actually Briette, the way he has the pronunciation keys, BREE dash
it's
the
Briolet,
way
isn't it? Chevrolet, Briolet, isn't that it?
I don't know. Do they? I think the T's silent. Yeah.
I think the B's silent. No, I'm just messing around. We're going into total high school antics at this point. So
yes. Well, I mean, the house floor was devolving in the fucking high school antics last night. So
holy crap.
I mean, yeah. What?
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys let's just put it this way. So we're gonna get some of the kind of national stuff out of the way in our first segment, because I think we're gonna unload in the second segment today. We're talking about what's going on here in COVID-19 stuff in the state of Pennsylvania, and
yeah, what a week.
I mean, yeah, and so we'll have a lot more to say about that. But I don't want to get too quickly into that, because I mean, right now, I mean. I want to talk about what's going on in Minneapolis for a little bit right now. I mean, because
Trump is trolling the yeah, we can talk about that. But Trump's trolling the tech industry right now on Twitter.
Well, yeah, the tech industry has been like flagging, right, his tweets. He had a fact check tweet flagged earlier this week, and now he's got another one flagged for inciting violence.
Yeah, like the whatchamacallit, the Joe Scarborough conspiracy theory, which is just like absolutely vicious, like, and completely unnecessary and uncalled for.
No, I mean, look, right now it's like, so let's go to walk through this. Is like, you know, I mean, I imagine, I don't want to go through all the specific descriptive details of what's happened here. I'm sure that people have seen the videos and have heard of what's going on a little bit right now about the murder of the unarmed black man George Floyd out there in Minneapolis, as we know now, that there were 4 white police officers that were involved in the murder. I was checking this morning. They still have not released the names of these officers or identified them for the public. I think that is starting to change now. If we know that, for example, the officer involved, the one who actually had his knee on the neck of George Floyd as he cried out, "I can't breathe," and essentially killed him, was one of the officers that was under investigation when Amy Klobuchar was she was the district, not the attorney general, district attorney? Attorney
general or district attorney, I guess attorney general of the state.
So,
but yeah, she refused to prosecute this officer. She's had like 29 cases that she referred to the grand jury instead of arresting cops or charging them right off the bat. And not a single one got arrested or charged. So, it's usually a statistical anomaly when you go 0 for 29, or there's just something else there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's an actual issue here, with that, unless, you go 0 for 29 and coincidence.
Well, I'm telling you right now that's that situation in Minnesota right now.
It's completely unfolding, and this is like we've talked about this before and talked about it again. I'm actually surprised something like this does not happen more often.
Right.
We have it's systemic racism in this country. I mean, we have a group of people who have just been treated like shit for 400 years from the moment they were forced onto this continent, and we're still dealing with those repercussions of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and today, and 100, 200 years of just enforcement from law enforcement.
Right.
I mean, yeah, and I'm just surprised stuff like this doesn't happen more often when an unarmed black person gets killed by a cop, a highly racist cop too.
Well, this is the thing, right? So after in the I believe, right, it was the governor, right? The governor of I believe
Minnesota.
No, mayor.
Okay.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, he announced that they had been terminated, but then he also said that the investigation was basically, or they notified or passed on the investigation, I don't know the exact correct terms for it, to the FBI, but he would not disclose those reasons. And it sure sounds to me like what we're starting to learn about some of these folks. Apparently, there's been some information that had come from some bystanders, from people who had witnessed this, some people who had heard discussions about this and passed on information to the mayor. My guess is that we've got kind of white supremacy kind of at the core of this. As we've known this, we've reported on this show, Sean has written about before. We see that white nationalist groups have increasingly been encouraging members, right, of their kind of fascist organizations to get involved and to join the police force, and this seems to be and in some cases they have been welcomed,
which they've been doing for 100 years. I mean,
right.
I mean, this is no difference than
that's right
the good cops being Klan members.
Good
up until now. I mean, this has been going on. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is
I think the one difference has been, right, is that we saw
they're
that,
more outward about it.
right, and we saw that there were several investigations. I wish I could have. I wish I was thinking about this ahead of time, and I would have pulled up some of our notes from some past shows, where we found out that there were police departments were having trouble recruiting people, and so they became much more lax in their requirements, and in some cases, were actually reaching out to some of those groups that they knew that would be would want to get in on this, and some of these were these kind of white nationalist groups, right? And so this is going to, I only think this is going to get worse. I mean, we saw, not only are we seeing protests going on, but the police station where the protests were taking place around first had to be closed, and they had to evacuate the police station from the police officers, and then that station was broken into, and they let it ablaze.
Set on fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, I have to say this, right, because we know how this is going to play out on Fox News and things like this. At least some of the pictures that are coming out like this, it does not necessarily look like this is, I mean, it looks like this is a multiracial protest, number one. I'm watching a video right now as we're talking about this from the Washington Post. You look at just people that are involved, that are walking around. You got white, black, Latino, across the board, men, women, across the board, marching on this police station. And then some of the pictures that are show of people kind of coming out of the police station after being set on fire are kind of, again, multiracial here too as well. So I know that what's going to happen here is that we're going to have Trump is going to racialize this as best possible in order to kind of gin up violence against the African American and Latino communities.
Yeah, and I mean, unfortunately, this is a situation where, like, I don't think you're going to be able to stop the rioting from happening. It's just going to have to burn itself out. But like, there's reasons why riots happen.
Yep.
Like, and this is, like Amy Klobuchar, someone like Amy Klobuchar refusing to prosecute police for what they do. Or like, I mean, but like district attorneys and attorney generals in general across the country who do this regularly. No, I mean, like, it's dangerous, I guess. We're seeing that now, and I feel like we're in a peculiar situation where this stuff's like a tinderbox, especially with like the ongoing crisis that we're in. People aren't working. I mean, yeah.
Well, this is like, look, this is right to your point. I mean, 53 years ago, Martin Luther King said exactly a version of what you just said. He said, riot is the language of the unheard. Right. And, I think this is exactly what's going on. It's like, in a sense, Black Lives Matter, as radical as it was perceived by, like, the establishment and things like this is kind of like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Right. Black Lives Matter really represented like your last chance at a kind of a reasonable solution. Right, to reasonably address historic inequities and patterns of violence and systemic exclusions and oppression. And we see what happened with that. And now there's going to be people that are going to come out of this situation and say this is still not rectified. And even what we did with the Black Lives Matter was not enough. Right, I go back to, Chris Hayes has got that book. I'm dropping
Twilight of the Elites.
No, not Twilight of the Elites, one that just kind of recently come out. It'll come back to me. I'm forgetting the name of it. But he talks about the ways of kind of making kind of designations of how we think about race in America, a colony within a colony or something like this, a colony within a nation. And basically talks about the distinction between citizen and subject, right? And basically says when it comes to policing, for example, there are those folks who are full citizens who can call on the police for things like help and protection. And there are those people who are just subjected to that rule.
And we're seeing it right now with the compassionate releases from prison with the stuff that's going on with the coronavirus. Like,
exactly.
Michael Cohen got out. Manafort got out. Like, these people got out of jail on fucking compassionate releases.
Yep.
While there are COVID outbreaks happening throughout the country and people getting stuck in jail because they can't pay a $500 bail fee. Like, they can't afford $500 bail.
Right.
Like, they don't have the assets for that, for some menial crime or some, like, nonviolent offense. And, I mean, we have it happening here in our state. Yeah, no, it's just our, yeah.
Well, this is also like that kind of incidents where you've got the, you've got this the incident. I mean, I'm sure you saw this too as well. Is that there's this woman
The
that was
burger?
walking. Yeah, exactly. Was walking in Central Park, right? It's this white woman, and she's got her dog off a leash, right? And there's this guy by the name of wait, it was the man Christian Cooper, I think his name was, right? He was a bird watcher, right? And he asked her to put her dog on a leash, and she flips out and she calls the police on her. Right? It's like that's exactly the example of the citizen subject divide. Here's a guy who's like,
there were the two black business owners who were using the gym the other day. Another example of this. They were in a WeWork gym. They're leasing an office space. They own a business they were running in this office space for about 2 years now. And a white person who works in the building came into the gym and said, "What are you doing in here?"
exactly.
First question. And then called the cops.
Exactly. Right?
And like calling the cops on black people is something that can get someone killed.
Exactly.
And making stories up.
Right. We saw this. We should remind everybody too as well. Is like this is a perfect example that George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. And again, you see that video. There's no other way of talking about that other than direct of murder. I mean, the whole idea about having a knee on someone's neck. First of all, I mean, we can talk about the regulations of it. That yes, of course, this was an illegal maneuver that this officer was doing, right? But the guy he was handcuffed, could not move, and he was being approached and being arrested because he was suspected of forgery. They claimed that he resisted arrest and this happened to do it, but then when the video emerged, they had to back off that story. This is the Klan in uniform in public. And it's been given cover by this administration, by this kind of like this culture of neo-Nazi. We also saw this past week, the protests that were going on, what happened, the murder of George Floyd versus the protests to kind of open up, where you have people showing up at state capitals across the country in long guns, all white people, right?
Seeing it here in Pennsylvania, you're going to see it here in a couple of weeks with Darryl Metcalf's
and
protest.
And they're all chatting nice with the police. The police are fine with them, but police, when it come out against the murder of George Floyd, are met with tear gas and rubber bullets. In many cases, in some of those videos, people getting shot with rubber bullets like 10 feet away. I mean, it's pretty freaking amazing. I mean, and disgusting. So This is, and I think right now, if you think about, the powder keg that we're in right now, is like not only do we have yet another clear example of police murder and police violence, but this is in the powder keg where people have been indoors and cooped up and quarantined for months. And people are already agitated. And now we have this.
And then also we have Trump, who is absolutely losing his fucking mind on Twitter. Not just what he's tweeting now, like about the thugs and stuff like that, but he's attacking vote by mail. He's already setting up a case for election fraud. They're already laying the groundwork for election fraud narrative. Once he loses in November. No, I mean, like, he's losing absolute control of the economy. He's losing control of this coronavirus. He went fucking golfing over the weekend, which props to Joe Biden. For putting out that video, that campaign video.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, like
it was well done. It was well done. It wasn't kind of like
30 seconds to the point.
Yep.
Simple.
And I've said this before, this is the kind of thing that Joe Biden does best. Right? I mean, he really does. I do believe, this is what I believe him. I believe he does have that kind of point of connection. I think this is why he's had such long support for such a period of time, despite his policies not being so great in many cases. But I do think that he does a great job of actually empathizing with people. And I think that's only highlighted in a situation now. I mean,
and it's also like how important it was for him to come out in Memorial Day weekend wearing a mask.
Exactly.
As a positive validator.
Exactly.
I mean, like, don't want to be like turning us into a heaping praise upon Joe Biden podcast, but
well, look, everybody's got to do one at some point, right? I mean, so like, this is.
But no, I mean, like what Biden did over the weekend with him going out wearing the mask shows people it's a positive reinforcement of how a president should act. I mean, and yeah, if you're listening to like Pod Save America, it's them talking about Obama, the picture of Obama getting the flu shot when H1N1 was going around.
Right.
It crosses partisan lines, and it shows it's a positive validator for people. And I mean, really, like there's only a core set of people who are not wearing masks, and they're pretty conservative, like just fringe Republicans. If you're looking at the polling data coming out, like 70% of the country, very wide support of wearing masks in public.
Yep.
So I mean,
I'm actually going to pick up. I don't know if you saw this. Majority Report now has a merch store, and he's been talking about this for a while. They have masks now that say that on it. They say, "My mask protects you. Your mask protects me." So I mean, it's like, and that's the mentality. This is the problem with those people. Even though they are fringe and they are in the minority, they're the spreaders, right? And like the spreaders are like, they have a weapon in this. They're germs. They're freaking air coming out of their damn mouths.
yeah.
Puts us all at risk, which is, again, this is a basis of solidarity across kind of, say, difference, if you want to put it like that, where we should be like looking at those people and say, you are endangering all of us. And I think that, again, we'll get into this in our PA focus, but I think that's the kind of thing that just kind of set Brian Sims off. But so we've got this going on. It's, again, the protests that are going on in Minneapolis are only going to continue, and that this is going to be we're going to have to say refocus this. And again, it shows us why we cannot. There's no way at this point in history we could do one thing at a time, right? Is that the response to coronavirus has to also be the response to systemic racism. That also has to be part of the climate struggle. This is all at once has got to happen. And this happened, of course, what goes on in Minneapolis happens at the very time that we hit 100,000 Americans dead from COVID-19. And we should say this is confirmed dead, because if you kind of read a lot of the reports on this and a lot of studies on it, they suspect there's a lot more than that. But because people were dying before they really were identified as such, and because there's been such a lack of testing and a lack of confirmation testing, even people who have died at home, or for example, or died from other complications, were not tested for COVID-19. But we're officially hit 100,000 dead. And when you have the New York Times, front page of the New York Times is a listing of 100,000, not every single one of them, but like 100,000 of people, just their names and one sentence about each one of those people was amazing. It was powerful. USA Today blacked out its front cover with 100,000 dead, and you wonder why Trump went golfing. I mean, one of my favorite kind of memes that emerged from that, it was like you had the cover of the New York Times that was kind of like, kind of with all the names listed on it. You had Trump in his kind of golf thing, a cartoonish Trump in his golf thing. Kind of.
Oh, I saw memes like that, but instead of Trump golfing, it was Matt Brett wearing a maxi pad.
Oh man. Yeah, there you go. I think, I do think that everyone should have a handy a maxi pad handy with them where they go anywhere, because you run into Matt Bruet, who knows, he might have fallen off or might have a problem with it. Just in case, just keep the guy safe.
It'll stop what's leaking out of his mouth.
Exactly, lots of stuff's leaking out of his mouth. And there's signs of trouble when he's deleting his Twitter account. There's definitely signs of trouble there. So, we've got to make sure that he's taken care of too, right? Because look, this is a nonpartisan issue. We're just trying to keep everyone safe. That's all. So that was a big deal this week. And the crazy when the right wing has been effective in turning a scientifically verifiable pandemic into an ideological narrative.
On the libs.
Whoa. I mean, that's what we saw. That's all I could think of. The Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, when we saw all those pictures come out this past week.
And
this past weekend.
Pictures from Wildwood and Ocean City, Maryland. And shit like that.
Well, I'll tell you, right in Quakertown, In Quakertown, there's this one place in Quakertown that's like, there's always this freaking idiot who owns some sort of hair salon, who has these big billboards on the corner. He owned this lot in this one corner with all this rundown buildings for years. They finally demolished that, and now he's got all these pro-Trump signs up there. But now there's a sign that just went up yesterday that shows that, hey, June 1st or whatever, or maybe Sunday, I can't remember what the date was on it, but like yard sale. Go Trump, victory yard sale, with all these tables that are set up all over it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not going to Quakertown anytime soon.
The Q-Town Mart.
Right. Well, it wasn't the Q Mart. Was the this is actually right on 309. Right. You can see it's like almost like right across from Lowe's. Right. The Lowe's and I forget the crossroad, but yeah. I mean, so there you go. On the flip side, I'll wait on this one. So I was very happy about this other one. Yeah, so this is kind of where we're going. We saw Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, but we're seeing images of this happening across the country. And Sean and I were talking about this. We said, as soon as you start saying that, hey, we're going to begin to open up, what people are going to hear, right? We've been taught to think in this country, right, wrong, either or, black, white, on, off, pro, con. That's it. We're like, hey, we're thinking about opening up. Oh, we're opening up.
Cannonball.
I've been going by. There's a bar right down the street from me who they've already been having people. They have outdoor tables set up, right?
Yeah. So Pizza Boy's doing that, like with outdoor seating. They have a tent set up with like tables.
Are there already people in them?
No, but they're opening up this week.
They've already opened here. This is at the Horse, right? At the Black Horse Tavern in Percy, right? They already have people out at the picnic tables. I mean, we
really are just going down. Like, we really are just want to be like Sweden right now. Which is just like, I mean, our response is just, fuck it. We'll just let it run through the population. And that's it.
Well, that's like, the practical, look, it's like, it's kind of like this. It's like you've got, it's that, that image of you're sitting there and the whole ship is going down and you've got a bucket and you're bailing water. Right. I mean, you've got a bunch of people with buckets that are trying to do their damnness to try to prevent the worst from happening. Right.
But meanwhile, you just hit an iceberg.
No, not an iceberg. You got actual people down in the lower decks with axes hacking at the hull. Right. I mean, that's the difference. It's like this is an active participation by people, individuals working against the people trying to bail them out. Right. Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. And this is all happening at the very time we saw South Korea, which was one of the big success stories in terms of the response, aggressive testing, and everything like this. They had reopened their schools, especially in Seoul and the capital, and within a week or so, I can't remember exactly the number when I think it was open a little more than a week, they've had to shut down 500 schools once again because you see this boom spike in new cases. And so now they're going to go through this other thing. Now they're going to shut it down, and they got a potential reopening date of another 14 days from now. And I think it's going to be that kind of wave that we're going to see all throughout the summer. And if South Korea, who's doing things aggressively, if that's happening there, God
get ready to give your kid those PSSAs.
Yep, exactly.
I can't believe that's an actual thing.
It's an actual thing. It is an actual thing. I thought when Steven Singer sent me, kind of sent out, he tagged me in that.
Is that from like Department of Ed or?
Department of Ed. Yep. Department of Ed. And last time I checked, Department of Ed is controlled by Democrats right now, right? Just saying. Just saying. The fact you would even consider that. And then, look, they're booking it. Well, I'll get into this in our PA Focus, and I'll get into a little bit about that. And I forgot to mention at the top of the show today about what's going on at say Kutztown too as well. I'm going to have, I think, a special show on this next week, kind of walking through a little bit about some of the reopening scenarios, and I think we're going to do that as an Out to Coop live, so we get so many potential call-ins to talk about what's going on near neck of the woods. But I'll get to that in our PA Focus today. So last thing I got, at least on this one, is that I was really psyched to see this, that Representative Elliot Engel, and like, who's literally, he's the guy who's like, give me the gun, let's go to war, and he's got major funding from Raytheon, from Lockheed Martin, from all the major defense contractors. He is the Democrat, quote unquote, who chairs the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He's basically, hawkish on with Israel. He's hawkish on like any of the worst wars that you can imagine kind of happening. This is a guy who's been fanning the flames of like let's go to war, and taking lots of money and getting support for it. And of course that he's the guy that Democratic leadership in the House decides that yes, we want chairing that committee, which shows you their ideological bent. But right, in this kind of, I think people are a little concerned. They don't want to get too out in front of this, but it's got the makings of an AOC all over this, where if this guy, Jamal Bowman, can defeat Elliot Engel this is going to be huge. And the race, I mean, this guy has not, Elliot Engel's not had a primary challenger in kind of like 15 years. And he's got disproportionate power, and he's this kind of older white guy, right? And in a district that is not all older white guys, right? And so now you're going to see this guy, Jamal Bowman, who has been running a very, very competitive campaign. He's totally being kind of like outraised in terms of funding because all the defense contractors are pouring in their money. There's also a link in the show notes today. If you click on Jamal Bowman's name, if you want to contribute to his campaign to help him out, that'd be awesome. But is looking to kind of unseat this guy, Elliot Engel. And now Elliot Engel actually has to kind of go out and say debate, quote unquote, Zoom debate, kind of what's going on. And I want to give you just a quick flavor of how Jamal Bowman is kind of approaching this campaign. It's like, so they have this kind of Zoom debate that took place. So I'm going to read you the opening paragraph. This comes from Akilah Lacey reporting in The Intercept. So the opening paragraph is this: introducing himself during a primary debate for a New York congressional district that covers part of the Bronx and Westchester, left-wing insurgent Jamal Bowman cut right to the issue at the center of his challenge to Representative Elliot Engel. Reliance on campaign contributions for corporate interests in the defense industry. Quote, he's taken more money from weapons manufacturers than 144 Republicans in the House, unquote, said Bowman during a debate that took place on Zoom that was aired on News 12 in New York on Tuesday. Quote, he's completely funded by corporate PACs and big donors, right? That's his lead, right? And so this, once again, we're going to get a test of what it looks like to actually kind of come out with actually the agenda and moving forward. So if you can donate to Jamal Bowman's campaign, please do. And watch that race, because that's actually going to be a big one, right? And I know it's hard to follow political races right now in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we'll do what we can. So anything else? You got anything else for the national score, Sean?
Nothing too much. Just trying to think what's been going on this week, but no, not a whole lot.
Yeah, I'll say this. I know Sean's got a heart out today, so there's a bunch of stuff I did not put in here that I'm actively trying to keep myself from talking about. But we'll kind of leave that for kind of another show. But that's good. So, all right. So what we're going to do is we'll take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to have our PA Focus. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press, and we will be back right after this. Oh, right before the quick break. Remember, go to patreon.com/rcpress. You become a member for as little as $5 a month. Help support Pull No Punches, progressive media, homegrown right here in the state of Pennsylvania. Become a member at patreon.com/rcpress today. We will be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. Every week I talk to our capital death cult paparazzi, Sean Kitchen, which I absolutely freaking love that moniker, about good, bad, and the ugly, state, national politics. And Pennsylvania has been a veritable shit show this week, especially in the state capitol. And I think that it really took, you heard, I gave you an extra long intro today. We heard a segment. That was not all of it. It was about 12 minutes long that Representative Brian Sims took to Facebook Live after learning about this COVID-19 cover-up by the House Republican leadership, Mike Turzai and his cronies. And he was so freaking mad, as you heard, and took to Facebook Live and kind of put this right out there and called on, one, the resignation of Mike Turzai and the prosecution of Mike Turzai and the investigation and prosecution of anybody who knew about these about the COVID-19 cover-up up and refused to tell House Democrats and their staffers. Because remember, they were actually going. What the part of the segment that I did not play, right, was when just because it was too long. Brian Sims actually he's on the state and government committee, right? And the state and government committee was meeting,
and he donated a kidney.
Yeah, I was going to leave you to say that one, right? But here you go. And he donated a kidney, right? But he was one of the people that was in where this Russ Diamond, he was actually in the state and government committee, which Brian Sims was on, and walk around with no mask, talking about how everything is safe and all this stuff, and not telling everyone else. And all the Republicans knew, but the Democrats didn't know that these guys were walking around freaking as spreaders in the room. But and so as you said, and it wasn't for Brian Sims, it wasn't just that this was a matter of principle. He was personally at risk.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just looking at something.
Yeah. Sean was watching cartoons. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm in this group chat and we just went into the PSSA's rabbit hole. So that something will just go down because everyone's just mocking it. But yeah. I guess I'll start from the top. One, unfortunately, Brian Sims will not be seeing his investigations or prosecutions. Attorney General Josh Shapiro came out yesterday and said that his office really can't really do anything about it.
How is that the case?
One, I don't think there's any laws about this that they can go down. And two, I think this would be an inspector general and not an attorney general thing because there's no criminality to it. How
do they know unless they investigate?
I don't know, but
I'm just saying.
I don't think there's anything that warrants. I don't know. I mean,
involuntary manslaughter.
No one's died yet, so
that we know of.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I don't think there's I don't think there's any laws on the books that allows the governor or attorney general to do that. But I mean, I get it. I mean, I get why people are upset, but it's also the type of thing where let's start with the timeline. 2 weeks ago, Republicans knew about this on May 14th with State Representative Andy Lewis getting sick. Andy Lewis notified leadership, and leadership told the Republicans that he was hanging out with, but that includes Russ Diamond, Frank Ryan, and apparently one other Republican. But this person is not confirming or denying that he's sick. He said he had knee surgery, and just hasn't showed up to the Capitol.
We got a new dog whistle term: knee surgery.
And so the person is not confirming or denying that he's sick, and and the shit just unfolded. I don't know what needs to be said or extracted upon with what Sims said in that video. I mean, Republicans didn't do anything. They didn't tell the House Democrats about this, and they found that the House Dems found out through a news reporter that got tipped off and asked the House Democrat, hey, did you hear about one of your members getting sick with coronavirus? And they're like, no, what are you talking about?
And their head snaps at their what? You did say what?
Yeah, and so that caused a major freak out on Wednesday, and rightfully so. And it was actually pretty funny because at 2:30 in the afternoon, I get a message from one of the state reps I'm friends with, and he's just yeah, we just got tipped off by the media that that some members are quarantining themselves, and no one told us about this. But I mean, let's talk about what the Republicans have been doing in Harrisburg for the past 12 weeks.
Exactly.
They've been telling people that employers and the bosses should be able to run the CDC, should be able to open up and run on CDC guidelines, toothless, feckless CDC guidelines that are non-existent. And there's no OSHA to enforce these guidelines. There's no accountability mechanism, to do this. They believe that workers will be able to do this, and they've just proved to everyone that their fucking platform is bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. They couldn't protect their own workers. They couldn't protect their own staff. They've been bringing staff members in. What people aren't talking about this is that House Republicans have been bringing their staff in for weeks during this. while the House Democrats and the Senate Dems and Senate Republicans have been having their members pretty much working from home, or the ones coming into the office are who work with leadership, and that's about it. Like very minimal, like handful of staff. While like Republicans have had their whole entire communications departments and everything come in, and that's what this has been to them. This has been nothing but a communications war, a messaging war to just troll the governor.
Right.
No, and they like showed that they can't, like, it's impossible to keep the workplace safe. Like we've been seeing this throughout the country, and now they put a bunch of people at risk. And then also the other state reps who were most likely exposed to Russ Diamond, as Russ Diamond was coming in, like Kaufman, Frank Kaufman from Franklin County. He was at a protest over the weekend in Chambersburg with Mastriano that had like 200 people there with no fucking masks on. I mean, like, these people are asking to get sick at this point.
Well, it's like, this...
And it's just like, yeah.
This really shows you, Sean. I mean, it's really hard for me to... Like, okay, so what happens?
And it's also, I guess we should also say, like, another thing Sims touched upon, no House members have worn their masks. House Republicans haven't been wearing their masks inside the building at all. And if you've seen these committee rooms that they've in, these are tight rooms that were once like reception rooms that were turned into committee rooms that normally weren't designed for committees to meet. So these are cramped rooms that they're meeting in anyway in E60. They can easily have these committee meetings somewhere else.
Right. I mean, this is one of the things I think it was Russ Diamond, right? Was the one who was like, they're in that committee room. They're like, look, we can keep things safe here. Look, this is a perfect example that we can do all these precautions and still stay safe without anybody ever being told that they're all sitting in that room breathing this garbage.
Yeah.
And the point that you made, as we were kind of talking about the beginning part of this too as well, is that, Brian Sims, he came out in that video and he said that, look, he said, and this is exactly the point. He said this was not for public consumption. He was not even going to talk about this until after the election, so nobody could say this is, political. But he had donated a kidney secretly, right, to somebody in his district, in his neighborhood, who needed it. And I
know friends who know about this that can verify it, and they've known about it since he donated the kidney.
Yeah, and he says, and he's like, and he did that, and he did it because the person was gonna die from renal failure. And he knew it, and he did. So, I mean, he's like, talk about a stand-up thing to do, man. I mean, this is not good. And his point was this, he's like, that's the point of wearing the mask. That's the point of these precautions, is because you don't know what other people, like...
There are House members whose wives are immunocompromised.
Exactly.
There are Republicans. Like, you watch this, even as this is going on, Terzai's not wearing a mask. Terzai's on the rostrum talking to Clancy, who is the House parliamentarian, and Clancy's not wearing a mask. Like, no, and these people are within like 3 or 4 feet of each other. Like, and these people, like, Terzai hasn't worn a mask at all this whole entire time. Any of the Republicans who are in the chamber aren't socially distancing themselves. They're not wearing masks. They're not following their own CDC guidelines, but they expect businesses. They're telling their whole entire platform is, oh, well, it's up to the individual business owner to do this, when they can't even get their own shit in order. And like, they're not just putting themselves at risk. They're putting staffers at risk. They're putting people who have to work in the Capitol at risk. They're putting regular workers at risk by doing this every day.
Well, that's the thing. It's like,
and then they're putting people's family members at risk.
But
like,
you're also
with
asking, like, is it individual business owners or people who are in this thing? You're asking them to like take on the role of experts. These people are not experts. They are making decisions based upon financial well-being. And look, and I get it. Right, but the only way that you can stop, you can make sure that those people are taken care of. People running small businesses, people running these things, and that they're taken care of, is you make sure that you're providing the funding and the stopgap measures that are going to keep their employees and their business like kind of from going under, so that we can get this done. And because we're in this freaking nonstop me, only like focus on what matters to me and nobody else. that this is the situation that we're in. And because we insist upon austerity, we insist upon like people having to shoulder the burden of their own like, safety nets. It's like, this is the situation we get into. And so now you're asking people who are for their own livelihood may have to open up a business, and now they knowingly have to put people at risk.
Yeah. While for 12 weeks, the Republicans have not brought up a single bill to protect workers.
No, as a matter of fact, they've done the reverse, right?
Yeah.
All the bills try to say, we got to open up this business. We got to open up this business. We got to open this business because they are essential.
Meanwhile, they're going to try to pass liability laws shielding employers from getting sued and stuff like that. No, I mean, they decide to run a 100% pro-business. And there's really been like no pushback from the Democrats on this. Like, I mean, you think about it, like, so I've been reading the Navigator research a lot. I'm hooked on like their tracking polls, and I've been talking about this weekly.
Yep.
Like in Congress, congressional Democrats are the most trusted source on handling the coronavirus by just doing nothing substantial. Just they are by doing nothing. They are just they're polling at 54%.
Right.
Like with the national, with people, like this is the opportunity for you to just take that ball and run with it.
Right. Exactly.
And just keep on driving that wedge further and further.
Exactly.
But no one's been doing it. Not in the state and not in the national party. Like
this could be, I'm telling you, this could be, to bring it over to electoral politics.
I mean,
this could be a historic landslide election if the Democratic leadership at the national level had any freaking clue about how to exactly have a positive agenda going forward. They could bury these freaking spreader
Trump's approval rating,
death cult Republicans once and for all.
Trump's approval rating with Rasmussen's at 42%. So like, it's Rasmussen. So take like 5 points off the top.
Right.
Like
for those people who don't know, Rasmussen is a conservative polling outfit, right? So you
very conservative and like usually off by stuff. But like, I mean, like, so like Democrats don't have to do anything. They're not doing anything and they're polling at 54%. Like imagine if they did stuff, like they could be driving the message on this and so much more. But I will say this, like I think we should give huge props to Sims, Kevin Boyle,
yes,
and Malcolm Kenyatta, who have been coming up here for weeks dealing with this bullshit in state government committee, but also like using this to speak out against the Republicans at times. I would appreciate a more concerted effort from the caucus, but thankfully like the Republicans, by just Democrats doing nothing, the Republicans stepped in it, and they stepped in it pretty big with this the past week. And they pretty much just imploded their whole entire messaging, talking points, and everything. Which you knew this was going to happen sooner or later.
Right.
I mean, it was only a matter of time.
No, exactly.
And all you had to do is just say, hey, one of our members is sick. But they didn't want to deal with the embarrassment, the shame. They decided to cover it up. And then it came out 2 weeks later. Well, Russ Diamond is going around his fucking neighborhood in Anvil. Like, apparently there's people posting online without a mask. He went to the post office a couple of times. He's gone to the Ace Hardware store. And now post office workers in his hometown post office are quarantining because they've handled packages from him.
Jesus Christ.
Like,
You are an idiot.
I mean, these are local accounts. There's nothing on the record, but these are like.
But these folks were at that freaking open up PA rallies too, right?
Yeah. No, Russ Diamond was at the Reopen PA rally the day after whatchamacallit apparently tested positive. There is a reporting out from another Republican in this area. She's like in Northumberland County, Culver. She put out a statement saying that like I was sitting in committee next to like Andy Lewis, and he was coughing and wasn't feeling well. And he's like, how's
it's not funny. I shouldn't be laughing. But this is just kind of like, it's such a level of absurdity. I can't even freaking believe it sometimes.
And he wasn't wearing a mask. And she goes like, she said the House Republicans never told me anything about this. Like, I can see you just like shaking your head like, no, I mean like, she put out a statement saying like, yeah, I get Sims, wears his heart on his sleeve and, with his emotions and everything, but I could, we have to really get down to the bottom of this. Like,
heart on his sleeve. I mean, like, this is kind of like justifiable outrage. I mean,
but I mean, like, she wasn't like trashing him. Like, you know what I mean? She put out like a pretty mild statement, not supporting, not trashing him. But she goes, yeah, but you know, House GOP leadership didn't tell me anything, and I was sitting next to the guy for like a couple of committee hearings when he was starting to feel bad.
My God. I don't know, man.
And these people aren't wearing masks in the fucking Capitol either. Like, if you watch these committee videos, I put screenshots up all the time of staff members of, yeah, I mean, Terzai's blowing his nose in a snot rag on the fucking like podium.
Well, and you think about it like this, is like these people are kind of ideologically committed to this denialism, right?
Yes.
But it's, you know, again, they want you to think that this is their individual choice, but I know, anyone who pays attention to politics knows, is that that individual does nothing without all their staff, right? And all their staff, right, has to come into contact with them stuff, and then all their staff has families, has friends, has roommates, have all this kind of stuff. So you basically are impacted. There's no freaking individual effort here. Choice matter.
And then after like this happened, right? Like after this became public, between the time this became public and Sims going off, they had to return from recess. And you know, you're watching the live stream and you see Republicans coming in not wearing masks.
Yep.
Down in the corner of the screen, you see Terzai's chief of staff and a couple of others wearing masks, but you're talking to legislators within 3 feet who aren't wearing masks.
Right.
Like,
they're like in a little huddle. I mean, I've seen the pictures, right? I mean,
that doesn't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, I mean, it just,
I don't know, man. I told you this because like literally after I got done with my my interview with Brian Bailey on Wednesday, I was down here, I was editing the video, kind of getting ready to go up and stuff, and you had called me, right, to tell me about kind of what was going on here. And then later on that day, I started getting some emails from people I know, friends from different parts of the country, like, man, like, they're like, man, Pennsylvania Republicans are really fucked up. Holy shit. I mean, they're sending me like links to like the Post-Gazette article on this and links to Penn Live stuff on this, and then a Vox article on this, right? I mean, he's like, and I have to say is that without without Brian Sims going through that Facebook Live, this would not have got the attention that it did. I guarantee you that too as well.
It would have went national, but I don't think it would have went as viral as it did.
It would have gone national at a slow burn level. It would not have done it at the level it was like, boom, this is going.
Oh no! As soon as I watched the Sims video, I was like, "Oh, that's it. It's over. This is going national." Like,
yeah, you're like, it's gonna be on Maddo, man.
Which it wasn't. I didn't see anything last. I mean, but like also because of the things that are happening out in Minnesota and
right.
stuff like that. So
right.
I can justifiably know that. So
I want to say to everybody right now, if you get a chance, you want to give this more of a national, national attention, I would tweet Brian Sims' video at Chris Hayes and at Rachel Maddow, right? And you go all in at Chris Hayes and you go at Maddow, right? At Maddow blog too as well, because the Maddow blog, they pay attention to this. This is something that we've done. Sean and I have done this before too as well. When you've built kind of certain kinds of relationships with those folks, you kind of send them stuff of worthy. This is right in their kind of lane. And I think it deserves national attention. And Fridays is a good time to do this because they tend to kind of like add things on Fridays that tend to be kind of winding out the week that they didn't get a chance to do, especially in heavy news weeks like this one, because of what's going on in Minnesota. So definitely tweet that out to them today. So before anything else you got on this score, Sean?
Yeah, one last thing.
Yeah,
so like last night, the shame and the ridicule and the embarrassment the Republicans face did not stop them from voting on Russ Diamond's House Resolution 836, which is a completely toothless resolution to end the governor's emergency declaration, and the governor has full power to veto it. 8 Democrats voted for the bill, for the resolution to reopen the state.
Who are they? Do you know who they are?
Yes, I do.
Can you list them?
Yes, I can name them right now. I listed them on my Twitter account last night, and I was surprised I haven't gotten yelled at about this yet, but
I got to put this in the show notes. Just so you know, this will be in the show notes.
So the 8 reps are all from Western PA. They include Frank Burns, Anita Kulik, Bill Kortz, who's retiring, Brandon Markosic, Joseph Petrarca, Harry Readshaw, who's also retiring, and Pam Snyder. Now, I would say a couple of these seats are toss-ups, right? But a fair number of these seats are also like solidly blue seats that aren't going to be like switching to Republicans. And there's absolutely no like excuse to be voting for something that and I said like this is about protecting workers. If you can't hold the line, then what can you do? Pretty much, you know what I mean?
And this is after all this stuff broke.
This is after, yes. This is like 11 o'clock last night.
You have this on your Twitter account?
Yes, I do.
Can you send me a link to that, and I'll put it in the show notes? All right.
Yeah, I'll send it to you right now.
Might as well give you the eyeballs too as well. Good, excellent. That's going in the show notes today.
But yes, there were 8 House Democrats who voted against it. So I put that tweet up. Like my parents are union workers. This does nothing to protect them. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
because these are, yeah.
I'm typing this in as we speak, which is why I'm like all over.
Yeah, and then I guess we can move on to some lighter stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about testing at home. How about that? I'm all like, so Steven Singer, right? I mean,
I was going to do the Bernie endorsements real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. So Bernie Sanders released some endorsements this week for Pennsylvania. A few prominent endorsements. 2 of them, Amanda Capoletti, who is running against Dalen Leach, she got endorsed. Amanda Capoletti used to work for the ACLU in Pennsylvania, and her campaign manager is the Human Wrecking Ball of Hate. So congrats, Colleen, on that. And then
Human Wrecking Ball of Hate. That's
yes.
Right. If y'all remember that. That's an oldie but goodie.
And then Summer Lee got endorsed, and then challenger Nikhil Saval got endorsed. And this is actually pretty interesting. Nikhil is one of the main people who started Reclaim Philly. He used to be an editor for N+1 magazine. He got a profile in the New York Times this week as the N+1 editor candidate running for office. So they did something with that about him. He pretty much like did a lot of organizing in South Philly once Reclaim started, and they didn't just like it blew up out of nowhere, and then like got Larry Krasner elected.
Right. Exactly.
They laid out the groundwork, and some of the work that they did is they took over a few ward positions in South Philly, and if you could start taking over the wards, like Nikhil Saval took over Johnny Doc's ward. Think about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the ward where Johnny Doc was the ward leader. This week, Johnny Doc endorsed also endorsed Nikhil Saval. IBEW gave them a $25,000 check.
How about that?
It's not because of Nikhil. It's Nikhil's they're not on the same page with like stuff with the building trades, but this is more or less because Larry Farnese absolutely. The two hate each other. Farnese beat Johnny Doc for that Senate seat a while ago after Fumo came out of office, and they've been fighting ever since for the past 12 years. So this is just, continuation of petty
high school politics once again. From the neighborhood.
Petty neighborhood politics.
Never forget that.
That's why I love Philly politics.
My God.
It's more of an actual like blood sport in Harrisburg.
Blood sport's fucking soap opera.
You might get a brick through your window.
Yeah, it's like it's dressed
or the brake
up
lines might get cut.
Just a soap opera dressed up in an Ultimate Fighter cage. That's all. That's all it is.
But no, it's definitely like I love Philly politics. That's probably why. But no, so there's gonna be a couple of races to watch this week. Once the primaries happen on fucking Tuesday, which I can't believe.
Yeah, I can't believe it. You know what? We just got our ballots yesterday.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, we put in a while ago, and they just came yesterday, so we got to mail them out today.
I would do that. Mail them out as quickly as possible.
No, we're going right. I'm going to drop them right at the post office because it's like that blew my mind. It's like we're waiting, but finally yesterday got it from the kind of Bucks County Board of Elections. They came. So we've called several times and things like this has been wild. All right, so last thing, we'll go to that today. Definitely watch those races. We'll continue to follow them here at Out the Coop Podcast. And last thing, I want to direct people over to Steven Singer's work. I've got a link directly to his whole thing. He's got this new piece out called "Pennsylvania Wants You to Give Standardized Tests to Your Kids at Home." Basically, the story is about this is a multi-million-dollar corporation called Data Recognition Corporation that is working with the Pennsylvania State Department of Education about, quote, providing the optional classroom diagnostic tool, CDT, assessments for use in students' home. And if you know anything about the history of standardized testing, the history of these kind of corporate profiteers when looking at education, is that this is the way that they work. What they do first is that they offer their tools, right, as to come in and we're going to help. Right. That, as for your optional thing, if you're looking for additional things that you can do, right, to try to help make this transition to online learning easier, we're here to help. Right. And they start to slowly make their way in to these public school systems. And then they become the kind of overall, they get the contract to run these kind of online platforms. And then slowly but surely it starts to encroach on other aspects of education. In this case, this would be like a huge get for a company like this. To basically say, okay, no, we're actually going to be able to get the contract. We're going to keep our revenue streams happening in the event that the schools are shut down because of the pandemic, because we're going to have parents administrate it. And you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, look, it's easy. It's like parents won't even be a big deal. Parents won't have a problem with it, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. We train the teachers on how to. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Now, again, that it's not at a full throttle speed yet right here in Pennsylvania, but you're also looking at Kentucky, you're looking at a bunch of other states. This company has directly approached the Board of Education in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh as a way of helping. Right? They're going to come out. And Steven Singer, as usual, does an amazing job just kind of breaking this down, give you a little background on what's going on with this corporation and what the overall plan is going to be. Right? Now, I look at this, and just to give you a little stretch from kind of my neck of the woods, when I start thinking about the chancellor of Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education wants to bring an outside contract to help deliver online education. And to kind of make their way to make it easier for faculty to do this. It's the same logic. These are people who profit off of curriculum, curricular delivery services. And they slowly make their way in. And it's a way of kind of helping de-skilling the education process, about sidelining teachers and the kind of role in education, and to host more of the burden back on parents to take up the slack. So definitely check this out. I've got one more thing that I want to kind of throw in. Yeah, exactly. It's all about the money. One more thing I want to throw in too as well is that I mentioned this last week. I've got a piece that I'm gonna be posting up on for Raging Chicken at our Patreon site. It's gonna be a little bit about a faculty task force plan at Kutztown University. It was a kind of union endorsed task force plan, but no one has necessarily endorsed this. But I happen to get a copy of the task force report about a kind of a return to campus in the fall, right? Because the Kutztown University administration, and again, I want to be clear on this one, as much as I'm willing to target the Kutztown University administration, Kutztown is not alone in this, right? But Kutztown seemed to be wanting to chart a course in kind of providing kind of a lack of transparency in their communication and a kind of whole bunch of kind of, happy talk about the return to campus in the fall as a way to kind of maximize their PR impact on the coronavirus.
Hey, we got to double that room and board, baby.
Damn straight. So we talked about this a little bit last week when we had this kind of leak. Is one of the housing plans that has kind of been released or has been talked about, because nothing is official, nothing's been released, nobody knows details, right? Except for a small group of task force who are not sharing the information with the rest of the campus. That includes faculty representatives on that task force are not sharing the specifics of the rest of campus, right? Anyways, they as a way of kind of making sure that the housing was going to be social distance, we're going to have, instead of having doubles or triples, we're going to have one student per room, and that will help and kind of mitigate the coronavirus. Oh yeah, by the way, did we mention that student who was in the single room, which was a formal double room, will have to pay for the double room, so they'll pay double to be a room and board, and that's how we're going to handle the problem. That is not a solution with anybody who has to live in the world, right, or has sent a student to college, knows that already. But this is the kind of stuff that is happening behind the scenes. And again, what the modus operandi for Kutztown University administration will be to roll this stuff out like, hey, here's a plan that's been discussed. And then we're going to fight back against it. They're going to try to shove it down our throats. That's how this stuff works. But so anyways, the task force plan came out, and I could tell you this right now. I'm going to write more about this. You're going to see this kind of coming out. But the task force basically said, look, there is no way to return to campus safely in the fall. And so instead of going through this pretend kind of like fairy tale about what's going to happen in the fall, there's no way that you can have social distancing and return to campus and keep people safe. And especially if you consider, God forbid, faculty and staff as part of those calculations, right?
Yeah, this is the thing that like amazes me like the most about like they like this is probably just a ploy to get like teachers who are older, professors who are older, just to fucking retire.
Oh, like, dude, why do you think they're extending the early retirement kind of scenario? They're doing another round of that.
We're going to force you to decide either to retire or come back to school in the summer, in the fall, and work. Exactly. Which isn't happening. It's not opening. I don't care what people are saying. Like, people aren't going back to school in September or August. Like,
well, that should be the plan. But I'm telling you, I don't trust these people. I certainly don't trust them. Right? I mean, so they may want to kind of force us to go back. And what they're going to find, of course, is that, I mean, again, I guess they want to be like Liberty University. Oh, everything's fine. Bring everybody back. Right? But the problem is that, they are so focused on their balance sheets and not people. This has always been the case. I don't care what the hell they say about we're a caring community. That's a whole bunch of bullshit that anybody who's paying attention knows. That doesn't mean that faculty don't care about students. It doesn't mean that people don't care. And we work our butts off to try to kind of make that work. But the policies that come forth from the administration, and again, it's Kenneth Hawkinson, again, when he became the Kutztown University president, there was all this bunch of hope. But again, those of us who've been around for a while know full well that this is embedded in the administration at Kutztown University. So change your president, you get a new coat of paint and everything like this. They're going to end up doing the same damn thing because it's embedded in their administration and finance approach. It's embedded in the way that they do business at Kutztown University and several other universities across this state and this country. And so they're putting forth this plan. So the university, so basically the faculty put forth a whole series of recommendations, which we're going to kind of write about. We're going to talk about, we're going to have a special show on this next week. And the whole point of this was like based upon, I don't know, science and the recommendations of top epidemiologists and the CDC, there's no way that you could do this. So just for example, the university is floating this idea about returning to college classrooms, but having half capacity in classrooms so that you'll be able to maintain your social distance. So here's my thing. If anybody's ever been to college or high school, if you haven't been to college, that's fine. Think high school. You go into a classroom, right? So let's say you have half the class and say that you're able to keep 6 feet distance from everybody in that room, right? And the faculty members be able to kind of have that distance too as well. And that's the picture they're painting for the world. But you also know at the end of that class, if you're in high school, a bell rings, right? If you're in college, they say like, okay, class is over. And all the classes in that hallway empty out into the same damn hallway. Right? So now you've got hundreds of students flooded into that. That's just one example. Or you go to the dining hall. Or you in the morning when students have to get ready and they're kind of coming out of their dorm and they're having to go to the showers. Just freaking use some common sense here. Or consult science. So that task force is out. I know that there's some other potentially explosive reports that are ready. That is actually some faculty members are doing some work that is based upon actual scientific work and actual modeling. And basically, if this is not evidence that the university, there's no way that they can be able to contain this. I don't know what it is, but I can't quite talk about that quite yet. So there's some really important stuff that's happening out there. So look, God, please. I know more about this because I'm at Kutztown University, but I'm saying this to anybody who works at a school, whether it's K through 12 or whether it's higher education, and is involved at all or has any influence on the process on their local campuses or schools about this return to campus planning. Get in there now and demand transparency. right? Because I'm telling you right now, if they do go forward, if schools go forward, we are in trouble. And I was reading this report, and again, someone paying attention to this, I read this report, and I'll tell you, and I said to some of the authors of the report, I said, you know what? This was one of the most sobering things that I've read in a while. Because as abstractly as much as I know in the back of my mind the return to campus is unlikely, this, when you put it in terms that are based upon what are the consequences, what are the things that need to be considered, it's a no-brainer. And it kind of began to settle in and say, yeah, I'm really going to have to prepare my classes for all online for the fall, because I can't see other way around this. So look for that coming up. I'm hoping to get some people that will be willing to come on and talk about it. But I also want to encourage, if you are at a college or university across the country, or a school where their administrations are planning on opening up, or at least claiming that they're going to opening up, to demand transparency. I will be sending out links and post it on our Facebook site, on our Patreon site, on our Twitter account. That will be kind of open up, and through the Podbean Live platform, which is kind of nice. It allows for call-ins, so you'll be able to kind of you can actually check out the video of this, the recording of it, which is posted out. But you can put in chat messages. We can chat live. It's going on, and you have the ability to actually call in, and I could bring you on to talk about it too as well. So look forward to that. We're going to have a special Out to Coop Live next week that's going to be talking about say the return to campus in fall, and or return to campus, whether that's again K through 12 or whether that's higher education, or whether it's about the general and we're opening up. So look forward to that. Anyways, anything else going on in PA that you want to throw in, Sean?
Not really. No. I'm trying to think and
I know.
So we passed the budget this week.
The budget passed? How this shows you like what's going on.
So a budget passed this week. People should be aware about. This is going to be a 5-month budget, stopgap budget, until Republicans are having this budget, extending this budget into the lame duck session after the election. So, this is bad. This is not good. We're going to have to go on the offensive to stop the impending budget cuts, but they're going to make this like 2011 all over again, but worse, with Governor Corbett's first budget. That's going to be the game the Republicans are going to be playing, and they're going to be doing this right after the election. And so it's going to be this is something we should be politicizing for an election in order to help flip the House or Senate.
It has to.
Yeah. We have to really get, in order to stave off a very devastating budget that the Republicans are going to try to push, Democrats are going to get as close as possible to flipping the House, like within 1 or 2 seats. So.
Well, there we go. More austerity coming our way.
So
that's for sure.
That was the last thing I wanted to say.
All right, very cool. Well, when we
sorry for the doom and gloom.
No. Hey, look, this is where you come for doom and gloom. This is the dark skies corner of the PA podcasting world right here on Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with this week's Last Call. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. It's our last call. We talk beer news, space news, whatever else. Just kind of, we talk Sean's new fan, right? New desk fan. I mean, whatever goes. Whatever we got left in the bucket.
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, right? The whole deal. I go, my allergies are bad today. I hope, and I'm not saying that as like, it's not like I have knee surgery or something. I'm saying I just got really bad allergies today. Sorry about that. Anyways, today is the day. I've been talking this up now for weeks. Netflix's Space Force. It stars Steve Carell. It is out today on Netflix. The series is released. From my understanding, is the entire series has been released, so you can binge it if you want. I cannot wait to watch it. And I've forced myself. I started reading kind of a couple reviews of it initially, and then I stopped doing it altogether because it's kind of clear. Like I read a New York Times review in part, well, Steve Carell has become a dramatic actor and things like, and he's really harped his game. It's sad to see him go backwards here to the days of The Office. And I'm like, I don't need to hear this garbage. Like, I'm not, if you're going to watch Netflix's Space Force, right, for kind of like, I don't know, like off Broadway kind of like show quality, you're missing the whole freaking point. This is about catharsis, right? This is about a space where we can go to deal with the kind of insanity of our moment through some of the kind of most talented people at doing that. So Netflix's Space Force, and it's an amazing cast. It is out there. It is ready to go today. Get out and watch it, and we'll probably give you a little bit of a review next week. I've been actually tempted to do an Out to Coop show only on that. But we shall see. We shall see. I don't know if I can go that deep into it, but let's go there. The other big news, big space news of the week, it was obviously on Wednesday was going to be the attempt to launch astronauts to the International Space Station from U.S. soil for the first time since they scrubbed since the Obama administration scrubbed the space shuttle program, but it had to be postponed due to weather. Now this is historic for a bunch of reasons. And the most important one, I think, is that this is the first time that you will have a private company that is going to be conducting the launch. NASA is involved with this. NASA is obviously part of it, but the mission control even is a SpaceX mission control. So you've heard me talk about galactic capitalism 1,000 times over, but this is it. This is the beginning of that era. Now, people have talked about, and Sean and I talked about this last week too as well, about whether or not, this whole Space Force thing, about this whole kind of return to, the programs is going to fade away. I don't believe it is. I think once you get these folks in the game, you're going to see this stuff ramp up. And I happened to watch this little episode with Jay Leno and Elon Musk with the Cybertruck. It just came up on my feeds and whatever. It was like at the end I did my work and I was kind of okay, I'll watch this a little bit. And Elon Musk was joking about this, right? When Jay Leno asked him, so okay, you said you got the sides of the Cybertruck are bulletproof. I'm like, why are they bulletproof? Like, what was the thinking behind it? Elon Musk was like, well, do you want your truck to be bulletproof? And Jay Leno's like, I guess so. And Elon's like, yeah, you're going to be all set for when the social breakdown that's about to come, And he's joking about it, he's talking about the Mad Max thing, but that's what's going through these people's minds when they're thinking about this stuff. Anyways, so the new launch date for here, nonetheless, I am a space geek. I'll admit it from the get-go. It was really, really exciting to watch. I was watching the NASA live stream for a good portion, kind of had it on in the background. My daughter, my niece, and my son would kind of come back and forth, and we'd watch different parts of, when they were unloading the NASA astronauts, instead of getting out of their little Astrovan or whatever, they get out of Tesla with the gull wings and all that kind of stuff. Because of course, Elon Musk is going to use this as an opportunity to brand Tesla. But we kind of saw it there. The astronauts were kind of they got loaded in. It was a really freaking cool moment in the history of kind of space exploration. So if you are like me, and even though I've got every critique in the book about the way this is proceeding in terms of where priorities are and financing, all this other kind of stuff, I'll never get past this. I don't think this is absolutely fascinating. Now, while I was watching this stuff about the SpaceX and NASA stuff like this, Sean had an equally important kind of a research agenda this past weekend. And Sean, I'd really, I hope that you'd share a little bit about some of your findings from your rigorous research from this week.
Yeah, so I watched a couple of like 20-minute videos on Nicolas Cage's acting style and the philosophy behind Nicolas Cage's acting style, and it was actually like pretty decent. Like, I mean, like they looked at it from like a film critique of it, and just like how he he is very into like German expressionism from like the 1920s and 30s, like Nosferatu and stuff like that.
So he's a secret genius is what you're telling me.
No, I'm not. I still think his movies suck. But it was just like interesting, like people like, so there's a couple of these like philosophy channels, or like, but they're more like left wing leaning. It's actually weird getting like into like that PewDiePie realm.
Yeah.
Not PewDiePie himself.
Right.
But like that like realm of like home vloggers.
Yeah.
Like, but like there's also like a very progressive like bent community to that as well.
Yep.
Which is, yeah, it's just like, and that I dove into that like rabbit hole this week, and it was actually pretty good. So,
well, that is, I mean, that is one of the kind of like the main kind of demands that comes out in any progressive platform, is that, you know, Nicolas Cage get his due. So I can totally see how you ended up there.
Yes, and just becoming a famous internet meme. But no, like so one channel is called Wisecrack, and they do like the like they'll do like philosophical deep dives into stuff like Pulp Fiction, Tarantino movies, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like I saw like a Nicolas Cage review, and I was like, okay, I gotta watch this. And it was like 25 minutes long. So I mean, time's pretty much at a standstill.
I hope you had some help getting through those videos.
Oh,
too,
I did. I a little more help than usual.
Yeah, you believe me. Clear. And if you're listening to the podcast, is like one of my favorite things about this moment right now is as Sean is talking about this, right? You can see the look on his face. It's kind of like, I can't believe I'm actually talking about this.
Yeah, but no, I mean, that's pretty much what I did to kill time this week. I've just been watching YouTube. Too much YouTube.
Oh my god. There you go. Well, the weather's been weird this week too as well. It's been a hard week to kind of be out because we had the kind of like all of a sudden
oppressive humidity.
Yeah.
Just like boom out of nowhere.
Oh god, it's like I had to actually get buy a new dehumidifier for our basement. It's like my last one just
I put my AC in the other day. Like I woke up one day, like Wednesday morning, whatever.
Yeah.
Before I even like got into the shower, like I just dug out my air conditioning unit. I'm like, fuck it, it's going in the window now.
Right, exactly. It's like
this is the first thing to get done.
Right. This is like usually Sean is like, well, again, it's been a prolonged spring, right? Kind of cooler spring, but usually Sean, if you go back and you listen to like our podcast in the spring, Sean
4 years ago, I didn't have I spent my first year out here without an AC unit, and I don't know how I did it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's you become part of the system. You get soft. I mean, that's
yeah. Start making more money. You sell out. You do that extra $30 a month in the electric bill ain't that big of a deal.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad you got that in and stuff like that. It's been I had we had Memorial Day last weekend. I was building a deck, which was like
I didn't even like realize it was Memorial Day. Like every Memorial Day, there's Arts Fest on the riverfront with Harrisburg.
Yeah,
I completely fucking forgot about that this year. Like because they didn't have it, but I forgot that like that's a Memorial Day thing until like Tuesday. I'm like, God damn it! We didn't have Arts Fest this like weekend.
Yeah.
I couldn't get anything from my apartment. I couldn't drink on the riverfront. Walk around with the camera, take some nice shots, but
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually we have this community kind of yard sale on Memorial Day, and that didn't happen this year.
Your neighbors did have a protest on
they
Sunday.
Did. That's what I was kind of getting to, making my way to. So I didn't put this in there wasn't in the intro, but on Sunday, Sean, I was kind of in the mountains, right? Again, kind of completely away from everybody. And Sean's like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a protest in Percy. And sure enough,
So like part of my like responsibilities throughout this whole entire fucking thing is to like just like trawl, like I don't mean troll like trolling, but like troll is like you're just like scraping along the.
You're dropping the shrimp nets into the ocean as you're
Yeah,
gonna move through.
yeah,
That kind of
just
trolling.
kind of
Right,
like I have to like look into like these groups like and see what's going on. It's been part of my responsibilities, and it's that popped up.
It's your burden, Sean. It's your burden.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we also have. I have to say,
I need to do something. I mean, I just have to like let people know I do something.
Well, you know,
nothing.
no, exactly. When I came back, you know, when I came back and I was like, I just drove by the park, kind of just to kind of see what was going on, right? If anything was going, and sure enough, they have the police had the area, the street that kind of leads next to the park actually blocked off now to kind of prevent people from prevent this from escalating. And I had, you know, and I think my view, at least on this, is that this is these things are related. Is that people are getting really fed up with the nut jobs that are kind of trying to kind of turn Percy into kind of like Trumplandia ideological warfare site. There's this guy who lives kind of on one of the main roads coming out of Percy that's always has these huge signs, right? He's got a lot of land, does like horses and things like this, and on that one corner, and you always got to go through this corner, got these like 8x10 sheets of plywood right at the edge of the fence that are all kind of like, you know, Trump, vote Trump, and he's got this one outright that recently is like, vote for the Trump delegates, right? Big signs. And you know, in the past he's had anti-immigrant stuff up there. He's got also, you know, it's kind of like proof positive of kind of like the area in which I live, you know, and that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out that apparently some probably teenagers, that's my guess, decided that they're going to take matters in their own hands, and they had to transform that sign over this past week. And if you want to check out the image, you can check it out on our Instagram account. And over the vote for Trump delegates, well, there was a large, let's say, member drawn over the sign from a very skilled artist, and a big heaping pile of shit drawn next to you on the other side of it. So that was, I think, a little bit of hope, right, in the midst of kind of our.
So I've known some very politically charged graffiti in Harrisburg, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
On the Riverwalk. I'm actually pulling this up now. So nice.
Yeah, so check out that. Maybe I'll even put that in a little link here. So if you really want to check it out, if you want a little laugh and kind of like a tiny bit of kind of feel goodism for the day, that could be it.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing I got today is that we got new offerings at the Free Will store. We talked a little about last week. One has been up there for a couple of weeks now. You have Haymaker, my bad. Haymaker Meadery has now kind of been teaming up with Free Will and distributing some of their meads. And I was able to pick up my first 4-pack of their mead. I got the one that's called Dandy. It's a sparkling mead with plum and jasmine green tea. It comes in at about 6.5 ABV. And I had cracked one of those open yesterday, and it was really good. And I shouldn't say it like that, but it surprised me, right? Because I've had lots of meads before, but this is a sparkling mead, right? So it's got a different kind of like, you know, ting when you start drinking it, but the flavors were freaking amazing, right? I was surprised. The jasmine green tea in particular, you could readily taste in that. And then you get that honey from the mead, just kind of finishes everything off. It was really nice. So that was kind of a cool thing, and it was a perfect thing for better weather. It's definitely kind of like, feels like a summer drink, which is really good. So you can check that out. They also they've got available there Relax and Chill. Relax and Chill is a hazy IPA. I'm sorry, it's a hazy pale ale brewed with oats and hopped with Simcoe, Calypso, and Centennial. Comes in at 5.5 ABV. And that one, I haven't had that one yet, but I did pick up a 4-pack, so I'll have a report back on that next week. But those are some of the offerings that are available. If you go to freewillbrewing.store, that's freewillbrewing.store, they have those kind of available. If you're looking for a good, like, you're kind of saying, okay, oh, look, I just found out DDH Love Letter from the 90s. They got that back in stock too as well, which is that's an awesome one, which we've talked about on the show before. But if you're looking to, I want to remind you that, if you have to go online, you order online, You pick up, everything's social distance, mask required. They have the order ready for you for pickup, or now they have shipping to any PA address, so you can have everything shipped right to you if you want. You can even pick up some of their merch if you really wanted to. That'd be good on their end. And if you get together with your friends and you kind of break that $125 barrier, right, in an order, they will ship it to you for free. So that's kind of what's happening up at Free Will. Check out their meads. If I had to give you one other recommendation, they have a great Hellas lager. It's called Sun Servants. They've been keeping that in stock, and that is an absolutely fabulous drinking beer. And Crisper, which is a Kolsch style ale, which is one of my actual favorites that they produce on a regular basis. It is really super good. So there you have it. So I don't know, Sean, anything else for the good of the order?
I went to Pizza Boy yesterday, got a few 6-packs. So like they have this
Nice.
deal. They have this deal that goes on 3 for $30, under 3 for $30, buy 3. And so like usually it's like a large pizza, soda, or a medium pizza, soda, and a 6-pack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did this with like 3 of the 6. He did this just like with the 1 6-pack, right? So like pretty much like if you get 3 Hazelton natives, because Al's from Hazelton, so this is why he's doing it. 3 Hazelton native 6-packs for $30 before 3 o'clock, versus paying $60 for a case. So my friend's like, "Yeah, we got this deal. You want it?" I'm like,
Like, yeah, you bet. I'm coming out.
Don't have to twist my arm.
Right. Exactly.
Because I went there just to get 1 6-pack, and for like $20, like 18 hours. Like, yeah, he's like, just go grab 2 more. It's on sale. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm just like, all right.
No, and what is it? Is it a good beer?
Hazelton Native. It's a West Coast hazy or IPA. I think it's a play on the West Shore IPA. It's very citrusy, really nice, easy drinking. I drank a 6-pack last night.
That's why Sean's hair was all a little bit like, oh, when he came out this morning.
No, my hair's not like that. I went out and got like a breakfast sandwich earlier. It's just so fucking humid out.
Yeah.
And I put some product in there. So
Product. Ooh, put some product in there.
No, I'm trying to go for the. I feel like after this pandemic, I'm going for the young Joseph Stalin look.
Oh God.
So that's gonna be my goal. Like that. Like I think I could pull it off if you gave me like another 5 or 6 months.
You could. Yeah, I'm glad that's what you're going for. Whatever.
Young Stalin.
Young Stalin.
What, you don't think that looks great? His haircut, like that black and white.
I don't know. I don't really think a lot about hairstyles, as you can tell. So.
Oh no.
No. What I am going to have I'm doing haircut number 2 for the pandemic shutdown. So I'm bringing out my clippers. I ordered a new pair. This was a couple weeks back. A new set of clippers, and so I'm gonna do my second round of shaving my head in the backyard.
So it's actually funny with me. My neighbor, my barber is my neighbor. Lives like a couple doors down from me. So I ran into him on the waterfront a couple days ago, and he was making fun of me, like trolling me on Facebook and everything. He's like, "Hey, you look like Nicolas Cage with the the haircut." Totally unrelated to like my Nicolas Cage.
I was gonna say, is this what set it off?
It might be subconsciously. It may have, like, you know what I mean. It was like the meme from Con Air, with him. It's like, that's how your hair's getting. I'm like, fuck you.
Oh my
Just
God,
like...
there you go. Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you have it, everybody. Hope everybody has a good weekend. And the weather's going to be a little kind of quirky this weekend. I know that. I'm hoping to be able to get out and get some stuff done kind of outside again, and maybe get some bike rides in or something like that. Because it's the end of May, and what I hear is PA is opening up, everybody. So
hey, a bunch of counties are going to the green.
Yep, that's right. They're going to the green, and then they're going to go to the machine. Respirator, that is. But
patriotic choking noises.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, say, and you say.
I am like, okay. So I'm really looking forward to like all of the punk music that's going to come out after this.
Oh, dude,
like,
tell me about it.
It's going to be amazing. So it was actually funny. It was on the like getting ready for our phone call. And the Menzingers, America, You're Freaking Me Out.
Yeah.
Came on as soon as like I hit like the get entered in, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And I told Ross, I was like, Eric, I'm like, I hate you. He's like, why? I was like, because I'm listening to Menzingers, and America, You're Freaking Me Out just came on, and we're bantering about the Menzingers while everyone else like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right. I
So-
tell you, I'm so glad you said that, because when you mentioned that song again, it just gave me some like joy in my heart. So I'm going to listen to that after we get off the air.
He it was actually funny. He's like, yeah, they named the whole entire album named Hello Exile.
Yeah,
Like,
right, exactly.
What are the odds about that? It's like, yeah, they were. I was like, in a few more years, we're going to be starting conspiracy theories. Menzingers were looking into the future with their.
Oh, speaking of which, I forgot about this. I should have mentioned this too as well. Is that I'm reading this book right now, or listening to it, I should say. It's called Station 11. I mentioned this a few weeks back that I was going to be reading this one, and it takes place after something called, what they call in the book, it's called the Georgia flu. It's like a kind of like a pandemic that just like decimates folks. So not like what we got here, but I have to say, and it came out well before all this stuff, right? But I read it, and there's parts of it that are really creepy. Right, because you can tell that the writer. I should pull it up. You should tell that the writer really did her research, because it's Emily St. John, Station 11, Emily St. John. It's because you're talking about different kinds of protocols when they're talking about what kind of looking back, like it's a backward facing. I think about when right before everything kind of collapsed. You're seeing echoes of this discussion that we're all having right now about this kind of opening up and stuff like that, and people ignoring it, and suddenly it's kind of suddenly upon them. It's really good, extraordinarily well written. I mean, just the way the storytelling line is great, the kind of way that she kind of approaches this whole thing. And most of the book is not like the lead up to stuff. The most of the book is about this like traveling group of musicians and actors who kind of travel to these kind of towns along Lake Michigan that are, and give performances, Shakespeare primarily, and kind of classical music, and that's how they make their way. And so it's these characters that are moving there, and so you start to learn some of their backstories, and it's really, really well done. And it's a kind of thing it's not exactly like cheerful pandemic reading, right? It's more like reflective, critical. I don't mean to say critical like you need to be an academic. It's not like that, but it's like it kind of as another take upon some of the things that I think we're kind of experiencing now, right? But in a more extreme way. And again, this has always been you've heard me say this 1,000 times. That's always been one of the things that I love most about science fiction is being able to make that jump, right? Make that jump to kind of like extend out particular logic, extend out particular dynamics into a kind of a future, so you can see them in a different way to reflect back on the present. So it's a really, really, really good book. So I highly recommend it. And again, that's it's I got to pull this up. I think I got her name. It's Emily St. John Mandel. Sorry, I knew I was missing a name. Emily St. John Mandel is her name. The book is Station 11. It was published in 2015. It's definitely some good reading right now. If you are not necessarily looking for escape stuff, but more kind of reflective, engaging, kind of really well written science fiction. So anyways, I guess that'll finally do it. We'll do it here. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Want to thank you once again for sticking with us today. We're going to go out today with our little Brian Sims things. We'll leave it. I'll probably cut it off a little bit earlier so you don't have to sit there and listen to the entire thing of it. But this is a reminder. Do check out Brian Sims' Facebook Live video. You have a link for it right here. Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. We want to remind everybody you become a member and help support Raging Chicken by going to patreon.com/rcpress. You become a member for those $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress today. And thank you for all our members. Thank you for all the support you've shown us through the years. Thank you for, looking at the month of May, we got 3 new members in the month of May. We hope we can kind of keep that pattern going as we move forward, as we seek to expand out our kind of our podcast empire, as I put it at one point. So remember, next week we're probably going to do an Out the Coop Live that's going to focus on the kind of the reopening, particularly in higher education around the country. That's going to Out the Coop Live. You'll be able to call into that. Look for details our patreon.com/rcpress. We'll also post that and links out to social media. And then we're going to looking to set up probably the following week. We're going to yet another interview. If you have not checked out our interview with Brian Bailey, that is available on our podcast stream and at patreon.com/rcpress. You can check that out too as well. So Thank you all for tuning in. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We will talk to you next week, or maybe even sooner. How about that? See ya!
How dare you? How dare you put our lives at risk? How dare you put our families at risk and pretend that it was about looking out for your own? We know you're looking out for your own. This is what gerrymandered leadership in Pennsylvania looks like. So, Mr. Speaker, all eyes on you. Are you going to continue to lie about your cover-up? Are you going to continue to put lives at risk? Are you going to continue to think that advancing the interests of the big banks and the big business whose pocket you're in is more important than saving lives? Well, you don't get my fucking life. My life belongs to me. It does not belong to you. You had no business putting me and my friends and my colleagues at risk in the way that you have. You're a scoundrel, if there ever was one, Mike Turzai. You have no business in government. You have no...